Hey guys, happy Monday. I guess that I will take a break from playing Animal Crossing to read night with you. We're on page 85 and we're gonna read to 92. You can follow along on the PDF if you want to or not, whatever. If you remember last time we read, Ellie had the surgery on his foot and like he had a sack of pus on the bottom of his foot that the doctor cut open. So this was like 2 days ago, and then they're leaving, right? The camp's being evacuated and they're gonna go somewhere else and they're not sure where. You remember at that end part, like he and his dad got to decide whether or not they were gonna leave or stay, and it was their own choice, but they chose to leave, and it was like the wrong choice. Like they should have stayed, they would have been free 2 days later, book would have been over. They decided to leave because it was too risky, I guess. So think about this. 2 days ago, he had surgery on his foot. He can't get a shoe on because it's swollen. He's like wrapped a blanket around his foot. And then it's winter, it's snowing, it's cold. And then also think about it too, like months, they've endured like months of eating very little. So they don't have a lot going for them as they walk out of here. So we're starting on 85. And again, we'll go to 92. Okay. An icy wind was blowing violently, but we marched without faltering. The SS made us increase our pace. Faster, you tramps, you flea-ridden dogs. Why not? Moving fast made us a little warmer. The blood flowed more readily in our veins. We had the feeling of being alive. Faster, you filthy dogs. We were no longer marching, we were running, like automatons. The SS were running as well, weapons in hand. We looked as though we were running from them. The night was pitch black. From time to time, a shot exploded in the darkness. They had orders to shoot anyone who could not sustain the pace. Their fingers on the triggers, they did not deprive themselves of the pleasure. If one of us stopped for a second, a quick shot eliminated the filthy dog. I was putting one foot in front of the other like a machine. I was dragging this emaciated body that was still such a weight. If only I could have shed it. Though I tried to put it out of my mind, I couldn't help thinking that there were two of us, my body and I hated that body. I kept repeating to myself, don't think, don't stop, run. Near me, men were collapsing into the dirty snow. Gunshots. A young boy from Poland was marching beside me. His name was Zolman. He'd worked in the electrical material depot in Buna. People mocked him because he was forever praying or meditating on some Talmudic question. For him, it was an escape from reality, from feeling the blows. All of a sudden, he had terrible stomach cramps. My stomach aches, he whispered to me. He couldn't go on. He had to stop a moment. I begged him. Wait a little, Zalman. Soon we will all come to a halt. We cannot run like this to the end of the world. But while running, he began to undo his buttons and yelled to me. I can't go on. My stomach is bursting. Make an effort, Zalman. Try. I can't go on, he groaned. He lowered his pants and fell to the ground. That is the image I have of him. I don't believe that he was finished off by an SS, for nobody had noticed. He must have died, trampled under the feet of the thousands of men who followed us. I soon forgot him. I began to think of myself again. My foot was aching. I shivered with every step. Just a few more meters and it will be over. I'll fall. A small red flame, a shot. Death enveloped me. It suffocated me. It stuck me like glue. I felt I could touch it. The idea of dying, of ceasing to be, began to fascinate me. To no longer exist. To no longer feel the excruciating pain in my foot. To no longer feel anything, neither fatigue nor cold, nothing. To break rank. To let myself slide to the side of the road. My father's presence was the only thing that stopped me. He was running next to me, out of breath, out of strength, desperate. I had no right to let myself die. What would he do without me? I was his sole support. These thoughts were going through my mind as I continued to run, not feeling my numb foot, not even realizing that I was still running, that I still owned a body that galloped down the road among thousands of others. When I became conscious of myself again, I tried to slow my pace somewhat, but there was no way. These human waves were rolling forward and would have crushed me like an ant. By now I moved like a sleepwalker. I sometimes closed my eyes and it was like running while asleep. Now and then someone kicked me violently from behind and I would wake up. The man in back of me was screaming, "Run faster. If you don't want to move, let us pass you." But all I had to do was close my eyes to see a whole world pass before me, to dream of another life. The road was endless. To allow oneself to be carried by the mob, to be swept away by blind fate. When the SS were tired, they were replaced. But no one replaced us. Chilled to the bone, our throats parched, famished, out of breath, we pressed on. We were the masters of nature, the masters of the world. We had transcended everything: death, fatigue, our natural needs. We were stronger than cold and hunger, stronger than the guns and the desire to die. Doomed and rootless, nothing but numbers. We were the only men on earth. At last, the morning star appeared in the gray sky. A hesitant light began to hover on the horizon. We were exhausted. We'd lost all strength, all illusion. The commandant announced that we'd already covered 20 kilometers since we left. Long since we had exceeded the limits of fatigue. Our legs moved mechanically in spite of us, without us. We came to an abandoned village, not a living soul, not a single bark. Houses with gaping windows. A few people slipped out of the ranks, hoping to hide in some abandoned building. One more hour of marching, and at last the order to halt. As one man, we let ourselves sink into the snow. My father shook me. Not here. Get up. A little farther down. There's a shed over there. Come. I had neither the desire nor the resolve to get up. Yet I obeyed. It was not really a shed, but a brick factory whose roof had fallen in. Its window panes were shattered. Its walls covered in soot. It was not easy to get inside. Hundreds of prisoners jostled one another at the door. We finally succeeded in entering. Inside, too, the snow was thick. I let myself slide to the ground. Only now did I feel the full extent of my weakness. The snow seemed to me like a very soft, very warm carpet. I fell asleep. I don't know how long I slept. A few minutes or 1 hour. When I woke up, a frigid hand was tapping my cheeks. I tried to open my eyes. It was my father. How he had aged since last night. His body was completely twisted, shriveled up into himself. His eyes were glazed over, his lips parched, decayed. Everything about him expressed total exhaustion. His voice was damp from tears and snow. Don't let yourself be overcome by sleep, Eliezer. It's dangerous to fall asleep in snow. One falls asleep forever. Come, my son, come, get up. Get up? How could I? How was I to leave this warm blanket? I was hearing my father's words, but their meaning escaped me, as if he'd asked me to carry the entire shed on my arms. Come, my son, come. I got up, with clenched teeth. Holding on to me with one arm, he led me outside. It was not easy. It was as difficult to go out as to come in. Beneath our feet there lay men, crushed, trampled, underfoot, dying. Nobody paid attention to them. We were outside. The icy wind whipped my face. I was constantly biting my lips so that they wouldn't freeze. All around me, what appeared to be a dance of death. My head was reeling. I was walking through a cemetery. Among the stiffened corpses there were logs of wood. Not a sound of distress, not a plaintive cry, nothing but mass agony and silence. Nobody asked anyone for help. One died because one had to. No point in making trouble. I saw myself in every stiffened corpse. Soon I wouldn't even be seeing them anymore. I would be one of them. Matter of hours. Come, Father, let's go back to the shed. He didn't answer. He was not even looking at the dead. Come, Father, it's better there. You'll be able to lie down. We'll take turns. I'll watch over you and you'll watch over me. We won't let each other fall asleep. We'll look after each other. He accepted. After trampling over many bodies and corpses, we succeeded in getting inside. We let ourselves fall to the ground. Don't worry, son. Go to sleep. I'll watch over you. You first, Father. Sleep. He refused. I stretched out and tried to sleep, to doze a little, but in vain. God knows what I would have given to be able to sleep a few moments. But deep inside, I knew that to sleep meant to die, and something in me rebelled against that death. Death, which was settling in all around me, silently, gently. It would seize upon a sleeping person, steal into him, and devour him bit by bit. Next to me, someone was trying to awaken his neighbor, his brother, perhaps, or his comrade. In vain. Defeated, he lay down too, next to the corpse, and also fell asleep. Who would wake him up? Reaching out with my arm, I touched him. Wake up. One mustn't fall asleep here. He half opened his eyes. No advice, he said, his voice a whisper. I'm exhausted. Mind your business. Leave me alone. My father, too, was gently dozing. I couldn't see his eyes. His cap was covering his face. Wake up, I whispered in his ear. He awoke with a start. He sat up, bewildered, stunned, like an orphan. He looked all around him. taking it all in as if he'd suddenly decided to make an inventory of this universe, to determine where he was and how and why he was there. Then he smiled. I shall always remember that smile. What world did it come from? Heavy snow continued to fall over the corpses. The door of the shed opened. An old man appeared. His mustache was covered with ice. His lips were blue. It was Rabbi Elihu, who'd headed a small congregation in Poland. A very kind man, beloved by everyone in the camp, even by the capos in the Blackwell test. Despite the ordeals and deprivations, his face continued to radiate his innocence. He was the only rabbi whom nobody ever failed to address as Rabbi in Buna. He looked like one of those prophets of old, always in the midst of his people when they needed to be consoled. And strangely, his words never provoked anyone. They did bring peace. As he entered the shed, his eyes, brighter than ever, seemed to be searching for someone. Perhaps someone here has seen my son? He had lost his son in the commotion. He had searched for him among the dying, to no avail. Then he dug through the snow to find his body, in vain. For 3 years they had stayed close to one another. Side by side they had endured the suffering, the blows. They had waited for their ration of bread and they had prayed. 3 years from camp to camp, from selection to selection. And now, when the end seemed near, fate had separated them. When he came near me, Rabbi Elihu whispered. It happened on the road. We lost sight of one another during the journey. I fell behind a little, at the rear of the column. I didn't have the strength to run anymore, and my son didn't notice. That's all I know. Where has he disappeared? Where can I find him? Perhaps you've seen him somewhere? No, Rabbi Elihu, I haven't seen him. And so he left as he'd come, a shadow swept away by the wind. He'd already gone through the door when I remembered that I had noticed his son running beside me. I'd forgotten, and so had not mentioned it to Rabbi Elihu. But then I remembered something else. His son had seen him losing ground, sliding back to the rear of the column. He had seen him, and he'd continued to run in front, letting the distance between them become greater. A terrible thought crossed my mind. What if he'd wanted to be rid of his father? Had he felt his father growing weaker, and believing that the end was near, had thought by this separation to free himself of a burden that could diminish his own chance for survival? It's good that I had forgotten all that. I was glad that Rabbi Elihu continued to search for his beloved son. And in spite of myself, a prayer formed inside me, a prayer to this God, in whom I no longer believed. O God, Master of the universe, give me the strength never to do what Rabbi Elihu's son has done. There was shouting outside in the courtyard. Night had fallen, and the SS were ordering us to form ranks. We started to march once more. The dead remained in the yard, under the snow, without even a marker, like fallen guards. No one recited Kaddish over them. Sons abandoned the remains of their fathers without a tear. On the road, it snowed and snowed. It snowed endlessly. We were marching more slowly. Even the guards seemed tired. My wounded foot no longer hurt, probably frozen. I felt I'd lost that foot. It had become detached from me like a wheel falling off a car. Never mind. I had to accept the fact. I would have to live with only one leg. The important thing was not to dwell on it, especially now. Leave those thoughts for later. Our column had lost all appearance of discipline. Everyone walked as he wished, as he could. No more gunshots. Our guards surely were tired, but death hardly needed their help. The cold was conscientiously doing its work. At every step, somebody fell down and ceased to suffer. From time to time, SS officers on motorcycles drove the length of the column to shake off the growing apathy. Hold on, we're almost there. Courage, just a few more hours. We're arriving in Gliwice. These words of encouragement, even coming as they did from the mouths of our assassins, were of great help. Nobody wanted to give up now, just before the end, so close to our destination. Our eyes searched the horizon for the barbed wire of Gliwice. Our only wish was to arrive there quickly. By now it was night, and it had stopped snowing. We marched a few more hours before we arrived. We saw the camp only when we stood right in front of its gate. Okay, that's all we're reading today. That was through 92. You might have seen Linus. You might have heard him meowing. He was outside, and now he's inside, and I think he was eating. As you can see, he's a large man. Okay, so in this part, when this, you might have heard the term death march before. This is like a thing that happened pretty commonly during the Holocaust. So when they talk about death march, this is what this is. So they like just made everyone walk and run from one place to another, and a lot of people died. So, you know, if you slowed down or stopped, they shot you. Like that kid that was running next to him, that his stomach, he said his stomach was bursting. Like the kid was like basically like, you know, about to poop his pants, and like he couldn't, you know, stop to go to the bathroom, so he died, and he like fell down and was trampled. And then he mentions, the guy said that they'd gone 20 kilometers. If you're a runner, like Austin, you might get this one. So if you think about kilometers, right? When you run like a 5K, it's 3.1 miles. So I'm talking like 12 miles or so. So that part that before they took the break was like 12 miles, right? On the no shoe in the snow after months of like not eating and drinking, after the surgery and everything. So that's pretty insane that he and his dad ran 12 miles. And then they like stopped and took that break, and then they went further. So like guesstimating 20 miles maybe for the whole journey, like 18, 20, something like that. So pretty insane. All right. That's it for today. Hope you are well, and hit me up if you need anything. I'm happy to help you with anything that you might need. And goodbye from Alani Kiss.